evening, everyone. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of Wednesday, August 8th to adjourn to open. What?
I like that. I'll make a
Long day.
motion.
Sorry. Item 1 on the agenda is the Woodbridge Board of Education Superintendent Robert Gilbert. Please step up. Thank you.
Thank you, First Selectman.
I didn't mean to adjourn before we started. Oh.
Everybody wants a short meeting.
Everybody
we'll
got
over
it.
it.
Yeah. You got to laugh.
So, anyway, happy August to all of you, and it's good to be back, and hope you're all doing well and having a good summer. Things are a little slower the last couple of weeks because our summer programs have ended, and we're actually having a little quiet in the building, which is a very unusual thing. But I'll give you a brief update as to the happenings and where we are and where we're going. I usually talk to you about enrollment, and enrollment is an interesting thing in the summer because there's so many people coming and going, and word that I think we're leaving, but we don't get confirmation, so I don't have any firm numbers for you right now. We're hovering about where we were when we ended the year, give or take, and we just won't know until we get into the first week of September. So to give you a better idea in the September report, as you remember last year, we ended with 850 students, which was a 6.5% increase over the previous year, which had exceeded our projections. So we'll see if that continues or if it's sort of stabilized. We don't know yet. We'll know more in September. As I mentioned, our summer programs concluded. Both programs offered by the Woodbridge Board of Education, as well as recreation, and the place was humming and buzzing all summer long, and very strong levels of participation. And I'd like to say a thank you to all the people who coordinated the summer programs, Kathy Solinardi, Sandy Simowitz, of course John Adamowski from the recreation, and several other coordinators, and it was just again a great summer of participation. And it's also great to see all of our youth from high school who participate in terms of leadership and service counselors and instructors and assistants. In terms of Beecher Rd School's registration, we have a new registration process, and parents and families received emails as well as a letter in the mail explaining the new process for either registering as a new student or as a returning student. And so we've put that process into place, and it's helping us to move forward, and also will help us with a new notification process for emergencies, which we are also rolling out this coming summer. In hiring, we are basically finished with our hiring of certified staff. We do have a few non-certified staff positions to fill, which we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks, and so we're in a good place for that process. As you know, we have an interim superintendent for the Amity School District, James Connolly, and I'm hoping to meet with him on Tuesday to make sure that we have a smooth line of communication and information moving forward in the interim process while he is there. In fact, all the other BOA superintendents will be joining us as well for that meeting. I mentioned to you obviously about our growing enrollment, and I think I spoke to you last time, and just to kind of let you know that our business office did move here to Town Hall. It was a successful move. Again, thanks to Beth and Tony for their flexibility and their support, as well as the whole Town Hall staff. And so our business office people have, it's now home to them. They know nothing else. Recreation office is moving to the recreation, or to the business office former space. And so we're in the process of just moving everybody down the hall and getting the new space that we'll have available to us ready. Our Board of Education did hold their annual summer retreat on July 25th. It was facilitated by Bob Rader, who is from the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education. There was a very good night and a long night of discussion and talking about what's been happening, where we're going. The board at its August meeting will look at some draft goals and some draft meeting topic schedules that they have discussed at that retreat. Summer curriculum work has been ongoing during the course of the summer, so many of our teachers come back during the summer to do work on curriculum, either revising or constructing new, and the two areas that we had the most work on was math and science this year, so we actually exceeded our expectations in terms of the work that we achieved, so we're feeling good about that. This past week we had 16 staff members, interns, and new staff participate in a 4-day responsive classroom training. Responsive classroom is the school model that we use to support social and emotional domain and to support our academics, building classroom community, using common language in classrooms, natural rewards and consequences, and many other areas. And so we were happy that so many people could participate in that voluntary training. Hopefully all of you did receive the publication of the bridge. I think I may have brought one to the last meeting, but if not, you should have got it in the mail. And residents are hopefully enjoying that as easy reading this summer. I have no updates on the financials, only because we have not had any meetings since we last met here the last time I came to you. I do want to thank you for your granting of a supplemental appropriation of the $97,000 at your last meeting. And we appreciate that support in funding something that was an unknown expenditures in the special education area. So again, there's no financial reporting at this point early on in the year or early on in the fiscal year. I do want to say that we continue to monitor the move-ins and the move-outs of families and students. Meetings take place during the summer, and so outplacement, special education outplacement line item is still a volatile area, not just during the school year, but also during the summer. So we will certainly monitor that, and as any changes take place in that, we'll be letting you know in the coming months when we provide you more detailed financials. And finally, everybody's gearing towards the start of the school year. New teacher orientation starts on Monday, August 20th. All teachers and staff are in on August 21st for 3 days of training and professional learning. And the first day of school for students is August 27th. And that concludes my report.
Does anyone have any questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy the rest of it.
Thank you.
What's left. Thank you very much. Okay. Item 2, First Selectmen's report. I will again try to keep my First Selectmen's report brief. We typically have a streamlined meeting for the month of August, but tonight we have several important items we will get to later in our agenda. On the topic of our Sustainable Connecticut certification effort, Sheila will have a fuller update later in the agenda, but I would like to share with you 2 brief items. A resident stepped forward who is interested in serving on our ad hoc committee, sustainability committee, so I am appointing Michelle Cohn as a member of that committee. Also, I, along with David Lober and Joe Crisco and many other town staff members, attended a half day. It was almost a full day, I think. I wrote half, but it was a long day. It was okay.
A good portion of that.
Yes, a good portion of the day workshop on the topic of community resilience building at the Woodbridge Town Library. That was on July 17th. As part of our participation in the Sustainability Connecticut program, we applied for and won a mini grant for technical assistance to host this workshop, which was run by a facilitator from the Nature Conservancy, and brought us together with participants from our neighboring town of Bethany to discuss issues that may affect us both. By reaching across the town line to collaborate and share resources, we were able to comprehensively identify and prioritize steps to reduce risk and improve resilience for both communities. I did attend a few other additional events. I'll just briefly update you on that. July 14th, the West River Water Festival was held, a celebration of the 5-year anniversary of the West River Watershed Coalition, of which Woodbridge is a member. And that was a wonderful event, and we got a nice photo. I think it's up on the website. It was great. I don't like photos so much, but I like that one because it was a lot of folks. July 15th, I attended the ice cream social at the Darling House, which was delightful as always. On the 31st of July, I met with the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, CCM, AJ Birmingham, and he gave me an in-depth overview of the various services offered by CCM. And I think we've already thought about a couple of them that we're going to begin to use, so we were happy about that. August 1st, I attended Rosa DeLauro's Congress on Your Corner event at the JCC, which was wonderful. And August 7th, I attended the Coachman's Picnic for town residents. That was yesterday. Seems like it was a week ago. And earlier this month, a similar indoor picnic event in the Senior Center. A special thank you to the Woodbridge Police Department for volunteering to man the barbecue for this. Okay, I think that's my update. Good job, huh? Short and sweet. Now, I put on the agenda, I added, as we had talked about in the past, a budget discussion. And, I skipped the CERC update. Sorry, guys. I'd like to provide a brief update on the work that is being done by CERC, the Connecticut Economic Resource Center. You recall we contracted with them last year and partially last year's budget, and we have some money in this year's budget as well. We met with them this past Tuesday, and they walked us through where they are with our fiscal health analysis. The CERC team will be gathering some additional detailed information to flesh out the data that they have already collected, including more detail on the actual dollar values of our net grand list per capita, as well as taking a deeper dive into areas on the expense side of our town budget to better illuminate our current fiscal health and compare us to other municipalities. You recall that we all had some input on some of that at, I think, 2 meetings ago. We encourage them to also look into details of both Woodbridge and the Amity School District budgets, and we're looking forward to a collaborative effort to enable CERC to share with us their ideas. Our aim in all of this is to leave no stone unturned as we seek to hold down costs and save taxpayer dollars wherever possible. They will be preparing their initial presentation of all this data for our September board meeting, where they would also like to engage in dialogue with the Selectmen in anticipation of incorporating any additional input into a final report delivered to our October meeting. We're trying to get this all done prior to our budget process, which begins in earnest, I guess, fall pretty soon. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. Okay. Beecher was coming at 5:15. I know he was interested in the budget discussion, but I'm just going to keep on going. So with the timeline in mind from CERC, let's now turn to the next item under my first Selectmen's report, the town budget discussion. I would like very much to have the CERC presentation to help us frame our further consideration of this, and I think it's very important that we do that. Knowing more about our fiscal health as a town and having additional insights on what areas of our budget we might further explore for cost savings, as well as ways to potentially increase our revenue, will be timely information for us at our September board meeting. With that being said, I know there are elements of the discussion that, is there anything right now you'd like to consider tonight? I thought before we did that, perhaps we could review what our town charter describes with regard to our role, the role of the Board of Selectmen, and I asked Jerry to just tell us a little bit about just remind us what our duties are.
I can give you a very
as well
short,
as the Board of Finance,
Yeah.
so we just understand where we're beginning.
There are two sections in our ordinance, 6-1, 6-2, and possibly 6-3, which concern the budget. And unlike all other aspects of town government, where the Board of Selectmen does the initiation, does the supervision, makes the final decision, the finance section of our charter really gives the authority for budget making, procedures, recommendations, and final decision to the Board of Finance. And the Board of Selectmen, unlike where everything else applies, is a advisory and suggestion kind of a body for the Board of Finance. In other words, the Board of Finance under the Charter 6-1 sets the procedures, the regulations, how they want the budget to be presented from the various town boards and commissions. The town boards and commissions, in response to the Board of Selectmen requests for budgets, get a copy of each appropriating agency. That's all our boards and commissions. Every year they have to give the Board of Finance their projections for how much money they will need. The Board of Finance distributes that to the Board of Selectmen for comments. The Board of Selectmen is charged with making comments and expressing their views on the suggestions by the by the various agencies in the town. And you send those views and those comments that you have on the agency's request back to the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance is then charged with reviewing your recommendations and your views on each aspect of the proposed budget. And then they prepare a document which is called the financial statement. And in that financial statement, your recommendations or your views that you've given to the Board of Finance is contained. So it's not that you have no input into the budget making process, but the input is limited to making your views known to the Board of Finance about what the agencies have requested. And then the Board of Finance, as you know, goes ahead and has public hearings and public discussions. meets with each one of the agencies. There are times when the Board of Selectmen, I gather, I haven't been to any of these meetings, actually has joint meetings with the Board of Finance and goes over what the agencies have requested and proposed. Then there is the situation where we have a process for supplemental appropriations. During the year, if an agency finds the absolute need and urgency to request additional funds from the Board of Finance, it goes to the Board of Finance, and it goes to the Board of Selectmen. Actually, this is where the document initiates and goes to the Board of Selectmen, request for supplemental appropriations. But the Board of Selectmen immediately sends that to the Board of Finance for appropriate action and for reviews and hearings and recommendations. So I just wanted to make the Board of Selectmen aware of what the charter requires and how there really is a sharp distinction between what Board of Finance does and what Board of Selectmen does. And unlike every other aspect of town government where the Board of Selectmen is involved and initiates and makes decisions and appropriations on everything, the financial aspects of our town planning is limited and delegated to the Board of Finance. Board of Selectmen makes comments on whatever the proposals are. So that's just a general scheme of about 7 pages in the charter. And you all have read it, I know, but I thought I'd summarize it.
Okay, thank you. And as far as the budget process, you send out, maybe you could just, send out a letter.
The procedure typically
Thank you.
each year is in September and in October, the Board of Finance will outline its goals for the year, its guidance for the year for the departments, and then I communicate that to the departments each year.
So we as a board, if we have any opportunities, we should have a discussion. Is anything that we want to relay to the Board of Finance
Yes.
about what we think we would like to have done, just generally, in that letter that goes out, right?
I would say there's
Send that.
nothing wrong with the Board of Selectmen expression. It's used directly for the Board of Finance, and the Board of Finance either can accept those views, modify the views, or totally reject the views and send out whatever it wants to do.
Okay.
But that's the stage where you can informally have some discussions. It would be unusual for the Board of Finance to make one set of recommendations to boards and commissions and have the Board of Selectmen make a separate recommendation to the Board of Finance, which is what I think that you guys were thinking about, but,
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
Unless I misunderstood.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to issue a it's not a directive, obviously, based on what you just said, but a suggestion of where we wanted to see budgets come in. Now, that could either go to the Board of Finance. I think at times we were thinking it would go directly
Right.
to them.
Right.
Yes.
So to that extent, yes, there's a little change there,
So
but
we
either
could-
way, I'm still in the game for that. Another suggestion, I don't know why it took me so long, 6 years to say this out loud, but I think that we should consider a charter revision to make the Board of Finance, that has this significant power over our budget, an elected board. I think it's inappropriate to have that board with that power and be appointed.
But just as a matter of history, there are very few people who have been around as long as I have, I'm unhappy to say, but Board of Finance was historically elected positions in Woodbridge. There was a charter revision that was instituted by Russ Stoddard, who was the first selectman for God knows how many years, 20 years. And Russ was of the opinion that it was too difficult and too onerous to really find people to run in elections. People just naturally want to avoid running for elected position, as all of you know when you're asked to run. They don't have as much of a problem when they're asked to volunteer for a position and being appointed by the Board of Selectmen. So historically, there has been a bias back 25 years against making as many positions elected as opposed to appointed. As a matter of fact, there were times, I think, the town clerks, the library commission were all elected positions, and there were charter revisions to cut back on that for the simple reason they were able to find more people qualified who would be willing to accept an appointment as opposed to having to campaign in the general election. I was on that charter revision, I think, 30 years ago when we made the change.
So rather than have a board like the Board of Finance with the power they have, and I know it's pursuant to statute, but we have,
Yes.
for instance, the Board of Assessment Appeals that might meet 1 or twice a year. Those are elected positions.
And that's mandatory by
I
statute. Board of
understand, but
Finance
it
is-
seems, you get my point.
Yeah, I got it. It's up to the board. I just
No, I
wanted to
know,
give you
it's not up to,
historical-
it's up, I'm just throwing it out there. And/or a charter revision that relieves them of some of their power. If you want to make it appointed, we could revise the charter back to make the Board of Selectmen have the power
Well,
over the final
I
budget.
think we would have
So
to
that's an
add that
alternative
to an
to-
agenda.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not on here tonight. I know.
Oh,
I'm
no,
just
I
saying-
didn't mean it for
But
tonight.
no, it's okay. It's something to
I'm
think
just
about.
putting it out there.
As far as tonight's budget discussion, do we want to wait for the CERC data that comes in September, and then we could either do a special meeting about our budget recommendations to the Board of Finance? Oh, you know what, I'm gonna open it up to what you guys wanna do. I shouldn't.
Are we discussing process, recommendations regarding our budget process?
What do you mean? Say,
So our recommendations to the Board of Finance.
right.
With regards to the way that we're doing our budget. So,
I don't know, can we?
As we said that, before the Board of Selectmen in February, I guess it's February where they make their.
There's a process, there's a process in the charter that outlines when things are due and.
Right, but
That sort of stuff.
the Board of Finance, the letter goes out and asks agencies for their
The boards and commissions.
And then the Board of Finance, I guess, could make a recommendation.
Sometimes they say
No more than
various things.
flat budget
So-
stuff.
so
So
what
before
we-
that happens, you can make that, you can
Right,
have
so
that
what we
discussion with the Board of
discussed in the
Finance.
past, and I think it's where you're going with your
Yeah.
question is, do we feel as a board we want to have a discussion and then make a suggestion or recommendation as to what our thoughts on where this budget should go?
To the
Right.
Board of Finance.
To the
I
Board
think-
of Finance.
I think that's the issue may
Okay.
come in if you wanted to make it directly to the spending agencies, that may, and the Board of Finance wants to make their own. I think it's okay to make the recommendations directly to the Board of
I
Finance.
have no
So,
problem.
Right,
okay,
Tony?
so
Yeah,
do
that's
we
a-
wanna
that's a
wait till
great
we get
idea,
the
yeah.
stuff from
That's a
CERC
great
and then do it at a special meeting, or we could do it the same night in September? Do you wanna do it now?
I'm not sure we need CERC, but there's no
Okay.
reason not to wait till September.
Okay.
And I would say we do it in September, whether we have
Okay.
CERC or not.
Because the budget process starts in September, so I
Right.
think we should do that, if everyone
Capital
agrees
goes
with
out
that.
at the end of September and
Yep.
October is the
Yeah,
operating.
so we probably should do it at the September 11, 12, whatever meeting, night that is. Okay, so we'll get it on the agenda. Okay, anyone else have any comments on that? Okay, thank you. Item C, dog park. Now first for an update on the dog park. I want to share a recap of the meetings and discussions that have taken place. As you may remember, our last Board of Selectmen meeting, we were focused on two areas, one at the Alleghi Athletic Fields and one at the Fitzgerald Tract. First, with regard to Alleghi. I spoke with Christina Hulland, who operates Off-Center Farm with her husband Oliver on the property formerly owned by the Santoros. The Hullands presently lease from the town the fields we were considering for a possible dog park location at Alleghi. Christina emphasized to me how important the continuation of their lease would be to the operation of their farm. Subsequently, the land trust wrote to us to tell us that they were not in favor of siting a dog park on any portion of the Alleghi parcel other than the area behind the trailers marked A on our map. Then, when we asked the land trust to consider a new potential location marked D on the map, Joe Dye shared at our last meeting, they came back to say that area also met with their conceptual approval. That's the one off the parking lot, when you drive in.
Long piece,
on the
right.
left, yeah, it's closer to, right. I met with the Shady Lane neighbors who expressed concerns regarding parking overflow that they're already experiencing from all the athletic events that go on there, traffic and noise. Their homes are very close to the area marked D. Lastly, for Alleghi, the town plan and zoning considered this location D at their meeting on July 16 and have written to us with their rejection of this option. I hope you have that. I hope you all got that. Okay. Where was I? Considered this location D at their meeting on July 16th and have written to us with their rejection of this option, instead expressing preference for the Fitzgerald Tract. These letters are in your packet tonight for reference, and they will also be posted to the town website. Now, with regard to the Fitzgerald Tract, Selectman Dye had shared at our last meeting a map indicating an additional potential area, roughly 1.5 acres in size, and he asked that we consider this. Although this area marked G on the map had originally been allocated by a previous Board of Selectmen in July of 2005 to be part of a 3-acre chestnut enclosure, ultimately that project only occupies roughly 1.5 acres of the originally approved 3 acres. We have learned that subsequently the 1.5 acres marked as G have reverted to its previous use as town property leased annually to farm. Presently, Keith Arnold holds the lease on this field, which expires with all other town field leases in December. We renew them annually, just for anyone who's out there. I met with Keith Arnold last week to discuss the potential siting of the dog park. When he conveyed his desire to farm as many acres as possible at Fitzgerald, he understood that ultimately the configuration of the fields there is up to the Board of Selectmen to decide. He will still farm the fields this year no matter what we decide, because his lease is up, as I said, at the end of this year. On a map that we received earlier, he farms A, B, and C. He also has 3 other fields at Elderslie that he farms. I also met with Amy Morella and Maria Kane, who discussed their concerns regarding the Fitzgerald property. Amy's letter, which summarizes these concerns, is also included in your packet tonight under correspondence, along with many other emails and phone messages we have received. All these, along with petition pages and public comments, are important points of information for us to take into consideration as we approach our decision. To gather further information, I assembled a group of staff members on August 3rd to visit the Fitzgerald Tract. Warren Connors, Mary Ellen LaRocca, Christine Sullivan, Betsy Agler, Sheila McCrevin, and Karen Lombardi, our ACO. We walked the property and discussed potential locations with a focus on, number 1, ADA compliance issues, including the requirements to have solid bearing ground and no more than 1 inch per 1 foot pitch on any incline. Chris Sullivan checked those as federal requirements. We went over all that as well. Number 2, what areas are currently plowed by our public works crews to remove snow, which does not extend to the Chestnut Grove entrance, thus eliminating some of the problems with some of the issues with it becomes it's not ADA compliant. And the need for both the animal control vehicle or other emergency vehicles to drive on the scene of any call as quickly as possible by driving right up to the gate of a dog park, should this be necessary if a person gets hurt or something happens. With all this as background information, and after considering all stakeholder feedback we have received, tonight I would like to propose that the Board of Selectmen authorize me, as your first selectman, to enter into a memorandum of understanding, the draft of which is, where are they?
In the packet.
It's in the packet. You got them? Okay.
Yep.
Well, it was on the table.
Okay. This memorandum of understanding is modeled precisely on the documents used as the first step taken to construct the Pease Place playground and also to establish the not yet constructed 90-foot baseball diamond. By authorizing me to sign this memorandum of understanding, I want to emphasize that just like these 2 previous projects mentioned, no town money will be expended to create the dog park. I want to be perfectly clear. I am adamant on this point. The memorandum of understanding simply allows the group to begin fundraising efforts, and they will need to obtain all the normal approvals that are necessary and required before construction can begin. The exact dimension and location will be subject to these approvals and further discussion of what best fits. But the area of Fitzgerald shall be no more than 1.5 acres as shown on Attachment A to the Memorandum of Understanding, marked as the preliminary site location. For those listening, let me describe the area as follows. It begins adjacent to the parking area and present ice skating blacktop, which may be included in the project, and runs back to meet a portion of the fenced-in Chestnut Grove. It does not border the whole thing. I also want to note that I spoke with Rec Commissioner Bob Hill yesterday regarding the ice-taking blacktop, and he indicated that the commission would be open to discussing potential new locations for the rink. So to summarize, I believe this is a compromise solution that will enable the dog park group to move forward with their fundraising and efforts to obtain the approvals as outlined in the memorandum of understanding. They will be required to come back to the Board of Selectmen to update us once a final plan and full funding is in place before construction begins. Does anybody want to review the memorandum of understanding? Should we go over it
We should take a vote first.
before we read it?
Well, you can read it, you gotta approve it. But you can read it.
Okay. Does anybody want me to read the whole thing, or have you all had a chance to look at it?
I read it.
I haven't had a
Okay.
chance to read that.
Everybody's okay? All right. So that is that. So I would entertain a motion, let me get back to my papers, I'm sorry guys, to authorize the first selectman to sign the memorandum of understanding.
I'll make a motion.
This is for the dog park at the Fitzgerald.
Right.
Outlined
Correct.
as-
On item, I've named it H now.
I have an adjustment though, so should I do that in the discussion?
We can after we,
Okay.
yeah, how's that sound?
So I'll
That's
make the
good.
motion for the board, for Beth to make the memorandum of understanding.
Mhm.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion further?
So that memorandum
Yes.
of understanding
Mhm.
limits the location to a portion of the Fitzgerald property.
1.5 acres.
All right, so there are several unresolved issues.
Okay.
The first thing that comes to mind for me is TPC decided against the area we're calling D adjacent to Pease Road. Pease Road, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
At the
Leggy,
lake.
yeah.
Right. We didn't ask them to do it, and I would like to know what their thinking is in rejecting that area. So I would postpone a vote on this until we have a member of the board of the TPC come and explain why they objected to that location.
They objected the entire site. The whole site.
Well,
They didn't want it anywhere on the site, it was unanimous.
because they say it doesn't comport with the town plan of conservation and development, without any further specifics. So it's okay to have what's there now, and it's okay to have the trees and all, but it's not okay to have a dog park.
Mhm.
Doesn't tell us much as to why
No.
they really don't want it
I think they were basically telling us to put it at Fitzgerald
Well, there was a motion approved to put it on the chair.
unanimously. Did they say why they didn't want it in Leggy at the meeting, Joe?
No,
No.
I don't recall.
Okay.
there. Well, their written statement
think it
is
had
because
something-
it doesn't comport with,
Right.
comply with
That's
the
it.
town plan.
Right.
That-
If you
That's-
wanna hear
that's-
my just general understanding of how they have it, I can't swear that this is what it is, but I thought it had something to do, the people who owned their house on Center Road who were farming that land.
The
back
Hollands?
there, the Hollands.
The one that I
yes,
just spoke
yes,
with, and
yes.
she is indeed farming those items, where A
Right.
and B, where B and C were.
But
Yeah, but not D.
D is not
Right.
farmland.
D has
Yeah.
nothing, first of all,
D's off the parking lot.
Doc Lover's right, we never sent D to him
Right.
officially,
Yeah, but
anyway.
We didn't
I
ask them.
thought that there was some objection from the Hollands even for the one that you were talking about. I'm not sure, but I think that was part of the reason, if not the whole reason why they rejected it.
You know, I think on an issue as momentous as this, we should have the input of the TPC.
I think we got it, but
They sent us a letter saying that they unanimously agreed that it should not go at a levy.
Well, they sent us a letter with a vote. They didn't send us a letter with a reason. Unless I'm missing something.
But it was
do they
unanimous
have
on
to
that
give us a
board.
reason? They don't have to give us a reason.
I have to look at
I
the
don't-
statute, I don't think they do, but
And you can draw this out,
Well,
but I don't think
we-
you're gonna get a different opinion if
also-
you're gonna change the spot.
We also are not bound by their decision,
you're not.
statutorily.
You're
That's
not
true.
bound by them, you can overrule their decision,
Right.
and they don't
Two-thirds.
really need, they're not obligated to come and explain that they're a quasi judicial agency of the town, and while this is not the same as when they approve applications and subdivisions and things like that, they're really pretty much immune from coming into the Board of Selectmen venue, or, I guess it's possible to have them come, but it's very unusual, and you can't, they can not come if they don't want to. But you're right, Joe, you can
Could be,
reject it.
I just throw that out, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, I didn't want people to think because they declined it that.
Right.
True. That's a good point.
Yes, from my
Yeah, the other
perspective,
thing
I wonder, David, what the benefit of it
The other
would
thing
be.
is, I'd like to look at that piece of property that you're talking about, which is the skating rink area. I know it's wet on one side and there's a big slope on the other side. Just
Well,
like-
it may,
Well,
this may be not the final, this is a preliminary, get them started. They're gonna end up perhaps going back to in the wetlands, they're gonna have to move it a little bit. We're looking at,
Here.
we're gonna have, they may have to move it a little bit because of when they go to inland wetlands, the memorandum of understanding specifically
Right.
requires all boards and commissions approval that are required.
But
to
you
do
are
this.
giving permission to the Fitzgerald property.
Mhm. In that general area, either, I mean, G may have to be part of it. The way that we did this was not to take the whole border of the Chestnut Grove, you know, the way that I came up with this particular idea.
Mhm.
May not work, but we're gonna get them started. They have to go and, they may have to come back to us and say,
so,
it's not gonna work.
so suppose we approve this and they do their due diligence and they do come
Mhm.
back and say, for specific reasons, not because, not like town P and Z, they give us real reasons why this might not work,
Mhm.
and they wanna revert back to G. Is there
Mhm.
anything in the MOU that allows that to happen?
Not automatically, they'd have
Not
to come back.
specifically, they'd have to, okay, so.
But I don't think we're
I
gonna give
just,
them.
I raised that because you
No, I
said, well, it
agree.
may not work, and so I.
Exactly.
I think it would be worthwhile if we're gonna get started to maybe have some language that would allow them
We can change, we can put
Well,
that
it
in.
says that it can't exceed 1.5 acres, so I'm just wondering if
to.
G
Well,
would be
but it's
excluded.
specified as on Schedule A attached to the MOU is the space.
I labeled
that-
it as a preliminary site location, knowing full well that we may have to take this 1.5 acre and flip it back. Right now.
Are you asking, oh, sorry.
No,
Are you
it's a-
asking it like, could it go back to the
To G.
Chestnut?
No, not the Chestnut.
Okay, because
To
that's
G,
too
which
big.
is, you know,
The
right in
parallel
front of
onto
the,
the
it's
Chestnut.
parallel,
Mhm.
in front of the,
The only way to find out is to just let them have at it, see what happens.
Carol, Karen Lombardo recommended no more than 1 acre.
Mhm.
And you're recommending an acre and a half.
I've seen online
Is
anywhere
that- is
from
that
1
part-
acre to 3 acres.
Yeah. Is that hard to adjust if we needed to, if for some reason we found it? I mean, it's just bringing a fence in.
Yeah, it's very easy to adjust. And the MOU,
Well-
the MOU is really not a binding document, it's just an understanding of what we're gonna go ahead, and it could be modified in many, many ways before anything ever happens.
We're dancing a little bit around this, but the spirit of what we're saying is that we're voting to approve the dog park at Fitzgerald, on the Fitzgerald tract.
Yeah.
The TP and Z, regardless of what their reasons might be, they voted the way they voted, and having their reasons, I don't know that brings in enough to weigh on deciding that this is happening at the Fitzgerald tract. So,
Right, but just to throw it out there, I'm not advocating for this at all, but if this board thought that D and Oleg was better, we can override the TPZ, I just
Agreed.
wish to be clear.
great. We've looked at
I
this.
think this parcel is the least controversial because it satisfies a lot of different concerns that we've got from these letters from various groups and individuals. It doesn't affect the chestnut tree project that's still ongoing. It is in an area that it seems to be most desired by the number of petitions that we've received that want it at Fitzgerald. Sounds like Aleggy was very controversial based on being in a residential neighborhood by residents over in Shady Lane, as well as being adjacent to sports fields and potential baseball diamond that might be going in at some point in the future. And also, I know at one point while I was on this board, the ice skating rink got brought up, and a lot of people seemed, not a lot of people, but some people were not in favor of having it at Fitzgerald. So potentially moving that out, getting it out of Fitzgerald, possibly putting that at a leggy since it's zoned for recreation, we might be able to satisfy both of those requests. I don't know, I think this is definitely a great idea to have the committee explore.
I know some of the phone calls and letters that we received today had a lot of concern, sort of implying that we were taking away all the farmland. Or don't put it there because it's all the farmland. This is 1.5 acres of 133 acre property. The farming that's going on will continue, minus 1.5 or 1.25 acres.
And part of that is pavement right now, correct?
A portion
Right.
of it is.
So
So it's not being
Right.
farmed
Yeah,
because it's
so it's really
asphalt.
1.25.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure I
Because
understand
the-
it. The only thing that I think
But if we
you
end up
missed-
not taking that, because
Right.
we can't build over that skating rink, then it will be 1.5. So the max is 1.5.
Got it. In item 6 on the MOU, I just want to point out that QPOP was not here. I don't know if they need to be, but I thought they had a recommendation to us regarding the picnic bench, the park benches. So I don't know if they might need to approve the design of the fence, if that's,
From a legal perspective, they don't,
Okay.
because these are the boards that have to ask on, have to vote on land use. QPOP is advisory rather than mandatory. If there is an inland wetlands issue, they must go to inland wetlands. If there's a waiver of a zoning regulation, they must go to ZBA. If there's a P&Z issue, they must go to but QPOP and conservation are only advisory to the town, so it's not required.
that makes sense.
In terms of farmland,
terms of
clarification,
what?
farmland,
Yeah.
clarification,
Yep.
this field and the other fields at Fitzgerald are hay fields, correct? Do they
Front
ever-
field
are they
A.
are they ever crops? They used to be years and years ago.
I think it's
called
hay
cornfield.
right now.
Used to be a
I will say,
cornfield.
okay, I brought the list just in case. Item A, this field up here, is leased to Keith Arnold. Front field 2, currently located as farmland. I don't know where 2 is. Oh, item B, sorry, which is where we're talking about locating. This one is Keith Arnold. Lower Meadow Field currently leased as farmland to Keith Arnold is here. C, that's the one way in the back beyond the
Right, that's
community
the meadow.
gardens. Right, the meadow, right?
Yeah, behind the gardens.
D, Middle Meadow, designated in 2016 as biodiversity garden upon the recommendation of the BOOMP group, whatever it's called,
That's full.
ad hoc committee.
Yeah.
Item E is the community gardens, which are
Yep.
over here. And F is the Chestnut Nursery, which is, we got a lovely photo.
I think it's really important that we always consider farmland, whatever decision we're making with using property along those lines, and in this case, I think it really has been considered. We looked at the Leggy property and many other property. I mean, we've been going on with this for a very, very long time now. There's been a lot of consideration given to this particular item, and there's been a lot done by the first Selectmen's office, including trips to various sites to take a look at different things. We looked at a Leggy very specifically not to use the Chestnut Field and the Chestnut Grove and the property like the farmland that we're talking about now. This, as Terry had indicated, seems to be with consideration to everything and everyone that has come before us and said something about it, with the vast majority of the people coming forward and saying that they want it at Fitzgerald. And that's through the petition that they provided. So my sense at this point is we're making a decision that we're moving forward with a location so that the people who need to work and do what they need to do to have a dog park, which frankly, even the people who are opposed to the Fitzgerald have said they would love to see a dog park, many of them. It allows us to start to move forward. And my strong feeling at this point in time is that we should make a decision along those lines, and we should do it tonight. It's really after significant consideration. I mean, we've really bantered this around and looked at all the different options for all the different reasons. And it's time.
Couple points. Because I agree with Mika and Terry in terms of when I try to balance all the interests of
hard.
what we heard. I'm still wondering why G doesn't do that better, number one. But as I look at this.
Well, that
new
was
con-
the ADA business that I mentioned in my
Well,
thing.
but that can be resolved.
Well, we have
fairly
to
easily.
pay town employees to plow, because they stop at the ice rink. Warren, that's why I brought Warren.
Or the dog park people could do it too.
We could ask them to
Right.
pay for the plowing.
But-
Wait, then emergency vehicles would be able to get in if we plowed it, okay.
Right.
Right now, there would be no cost if we put it on H.
There's no cost to the town if you make you know, if the cost is spread to them as well. That would have to be worked out. When I look at this configuration, I'm just wondering, as I look at it, really,
Joe,
the ice skating rink, could that possibly be parking for the dog park?
It could.
Instead
That
of
was-
part of the dog park?
We
and
talked a
then-
little bit about maybe a few
And then
spaces.
reconfigure, because then the entrance to the dog park is right next to the parking for the dog park, and it's not right in front of the parking where everyone else parks. To me, again, balancing competing interests, that might be something we look at, and then borrow a little more land out in the hayfield. I just throw that out. I have no objection to a dog park at the Fitzgerald. I just want to make sure
one of the
these two is.
one of the appeals that this has is that it does reduce the amount of farmland that actually we would take otherwise if we did G versus this. This uses a little bit less. It's not significant, but
I think
it
it's
is.
Karen
about a
also
quarter
said
of an
something,
acre.
and I could go back and ask her, but Karen mentioned something about having something, I think she said tubular. If the G paralleled the Chestnut Grove, I remember she said something, I can't remember, like, I don't know if this is true, because I have a crazy dog, but a dog looks at that and says, "I'm going," and it encourages them to zoom. I don't know. She just mentioned that it's a tubular they want to run, but we can debate that, it doesn't matter.
You want
I
to
like-
push it run.
what I-
That's the point, running.
I
what I
got
like
that,
about
but
it
a
as
little
well-
bit, I know.
Another thing that I
Just
consider
saying.
a positive is that it's in an area where, people just that initially are getting out of their cars and are initially walking. And I'm thinking of some of the concerns and some of the comments that were made about the serenity and the peacefulness of it. And this particular area is probably the least of that out of all the other areas. And not to say the G,
See, I don't think so.
really?
I think G is.
I think there's pieces of walking trail
I
on
don't-
one
I'm just
end
throwing it
and
out
the
there, I
other.
don't care either way, but if that skating rink is part of the dog park, I've been there twice in the last 2 days. It's 10 feet from the parking lot
Right.
where you're gonna have the dogs. And to me, that doesn't balance the interest of people who didn't want walking trails by it or didn't want it. They wanted their serenity and they don't want to see, for whatever their reasons are. I don't mind dogs, but they don't want to see the dog.
Right.
That's why I think G actually is better, but G has downfalls too, as you point out. So that's why I'm suggesting if we made that ice skating rink parking dedicated to the dog park, then the entrance into the dog park is over here and
It's
it's
even farther
away
back.
from, it's away from people who are not going to the dog park.
Okay, it's a possibility. So go ahead, Joe,
I
sorry.
just want to mention, I was at town planning and zoning meeting, which I'll report on the liaison, and they did have a motion to approve Fitzgerald property. A lot of constructive effort has been conducted by all parties in this particular project, and I think the time is now to act upon it and based on the recommendation.
Okay, well, let's get the discussion started
Well, we have a
I made the
motion.
motion.
we have the motion, we have a second?
We have a
Okay.
motion
Let's
to
take a
approve
vote.
this
I'm
as
sorry.
it is.
Okay,
No motion, we have a second.
let's take a vote.
Any other discussion?
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Okay, thank you. So I'll execute this and, okay. Okay, we have a long meeting, so sorry. Next is liaison reports. Terry, let's start this side. I think you started last.
Alrighty.
That side. Thank you.
Well, as usual, Bob did a great job giving the update of the Beecher Board of Ed and their recent retreat. Amity School District starts at the end of the month. The superintendent search is still underway with a conclusion next Wednesday, the 13th, I think. And they know that a survey was sent out to parents. But I believe you can access, if anybody wanted to participate before the survey closed, they can go onto the Amity School District website and find the link for that.
Thank you.
And that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, at the town planning and zoning meeting on July 16th, there was a public hearing on a application for use of a farm stand at Mazzaro Farm. This was approved, so the residents have another option to buy fresh fruits and vegetables at Mazzaro Farm. And as mentioned, the dog park, they did take action, and there was a motion approved for the Fitzgerald property. And in regards to updated zoning regulations, there was some talk about a special meeting, but they said it's not needed, and they will again begin review of the zoning regulations at their September meeting. In regards to the police commission, there was no meeting this month.
Thank you. Rita?
Did not attend the EDC meeting, was held at one of the concerts.
Yeah.
I was not able to attend. I did attend the rec commission meeting. Most significant was the vote that came out of it, approving going forward with offering a reduced rate for a portion of the summer at the pool at the country club. That was.
Thank you. David?
Went to Coopop meeting, they're still working on achieving goals for Sustainability Connecticut action plan, including cataloging properties in conjunction with the Conservation Commission. They reviewed ongoing planning for new road project by the Amity Cross Country Team, Boy Scout signage, and trail projects. They're inviting representatives from Recreation and the Park Association to the next meeting to discuss trail maintenance. They did mention the Community Resiliency Workshop. They updated a list of completed Eagle Scout projects going back many decades. And there was a suggestion to establish bullet points for homeowners to help conserve water. And this came out of a water contamination by one of the members, when she realized how much water she had to waste when she had to flush her system. The library.
Doing what?
She had to flush her system. She had contamination from a septic tank.
Oh.
Because of high water levels.
Okay. Oh.
Basically. Then she had to decontaminate her well.
I'm sorry to
So she-
interrupt. I just wanted to understand
right,
further.
yeah.
Thank you.
So she
Okay.
became aware of how much water, she
I
was
got it.
wasting in it.
Okay, thank you.
Keep your imagination. The library had some personnel hires. They had one part-time new hire in a consolidated position, children's associate, 28 hours a week, and she would replace 2 positions. They had their payroll manager move from the state, and her responsibilities will be distributed to personnel at the Department of Public Works, the tax office, and finance, with a slight increase in remuneration to each of those people. I did not go to the Human Services Commission meeting, but there will be a representative here, and I thought I saw somebody. Oh, there we are. To talk about the ongoing ramp and bathroom project. Still filling you in.
Okay, thank you.
No reports.
Okay, thank you, Joe. We have 4 minutes before public comment, so I don't think we'll do 5. Is the person here from the food truck event at the Green? Not yet?
Joe's report. Where is this?
Okay, well, I'm just trying to, how about if we go to item 7, the hazard mitigation plan update? Would that be good? Just trying to keep in line because I get very confused. Okay. You have in your packet a certificate of resolution to the town of Woodbridge, a resolution adopting the 2018 South Central Regional multi-jurisdiction hazard mitigation plan update. This is an approval of a document that was, I hope the link was emailed to you. It's 600 to 700 pages long. So we thought not to send it to you, but hopefully you had a chance to read it all, right?
It's in my
Okay.
office if you need it.
So basically, the plan specifically addresses hazard mitigation strategies and plan maintenance procedures for the town of Woodbridge. I can read the whole resolution if you'd like, but I'll just outline two things. Also, adoption of this plan will make the town of Woodbridge eligible for funding to reduce long-term risks of future hazards. Do I need a motion to waive reading of the resolution first? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that I don't have to read the certificate of resolution.
I'll make a motion relieving you of the
Thank you.
obligation to read the resolution.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So now the second question is, we need a motion to approve the first selectman's signature to this, that it was be adopted by the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen on this date.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So it was unanimous, so it's all in favor, because we have to have that on the resolution.
All right, I
Unanimous.
just need to know who seconded that.
I think that, oh, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Oof, okay, Eagle Scout project is created. What? Okay. What else can I do that's quick, guys?
Town clerk's report?
Okay. Okay.
You can, Beth, you can start this, you can start.
I
public
can
comment.
start, it's
Sure,
okay?
Sure.
All right.
If anybody comes in, yeah.
All right. Okay, because I have some intros to write down, thanks. Let me just find it. What number was that now? Six. Number four. Okay, great. Before we begin public comment, I would like to remind everyone that we have all correspondence, including every item that was received today. Last one was at 4:10 p.m., and I can assure that person that it was distributed to everyone at the board. So there's no need to read letters into the record if that's your concern. We'll be keeping to a strict 2-minute limit, again, in the interest of everyone's time. Sheila has a timer. You want to play it? Okay. And when the chime rings, we would ask you to wrap up and please stop, because there are a lot of folks coming tonight and other matters besides just some of the obvious ones. Also, Jerry Shaw, would you please provide us with an update regarding phone calls you received today from people who asked to have their names mentioned as providing public comment tonight?
Yes.
Thank you.
I received a phone call from Andrea Urbano, another one from a William Jones, who resides on Johnson Road, Jerry Savino, who resides on Ford Road, and Peter Cooper, who resides on Amity Road. All of these people urged against a dog park on farmland.
On farmland.
On farmland.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So now I can start.
I'm going to go except I should have another pen. Yeah.
Sign-in sheet for whoever would like.
All right. So we'll ask you all to come on up and sign in before you start. You can sign in when you come up, but okay, go ahead, because I just want to make it hard on you. Yeah, come on up and you just need name and address and then 2 minutes.
Okay. My name is Sharon Bender. I live at 16 Penny Lane here in town. I'd like to enter that petition into the record and give copies to everybody.
We'll
to
pass them
around.
around. We'll shoot them
Thank
out.
you.
Thanks.
There should be extras there.
Oh, you have,
Good evening. As I mentioned, I'm Sharon Bender, Chair of the Human Services Commission, and I'm privileged to serve a dedicated and committed staff and volunteer commissioners, as well as people aged 60 to 100. It's my pleasure. At the Woodbridge Senior Center, which was recently renamed the Woodbridge Center to more appropriately serve our growing population of age 60-plus people, a restroom project was first proposed in 2010 to add a much-needed bathroom to the lower-level center, which currently has no bathroom at all. The project has had support from the seniors, commission members, and the Board of Selectmen, and here we are in 2018 seeking the remainder of the funding to bring us into ADA code compliance because we need appropriate facilities and to be able to serve our growing population in an appropriate manner. During the storms this past spring, when the shelter was open in the lower level, we had to displace a senior resident to a hotel due to lack of an accessible bathroom on the lower level where the center is located. Several seniors have told us that they do not drink anything while they're at the center, even in the hot summer months, because they're afraid they won't make it to the upstairs bathroom in time. With upwards of 120 people attending large events 6 or 7 times a year, we have had up to 1/3 of these participants using canes, walkers, and wheelchairs. It is critical that we provide a safe environment. I can turn in my comments. I know I should stop now. So we are here to ask for your support
Thank you.
for our ramp and our bathroom.
Thank you.
You very much.
Can I just ask one I know we don't, but when was this petition signed? There's no date on it. I'm just
The
curious.
petition was signed, I believe, yesterday and today. I'd like
Thanks.
to turn that in, please. Thank you.
My name is Peter Wells. I live at 78 Deer Run Road, and I am also here to support the idea of a restroom and a ramp. My wife and I are in the senior center at least twice a week, and of late my wife has significant mobility problems, and you know, you can understand intellectually about access, but you don't really get it until you live with someone who has difficulties with it. So I support this, and I hope you will too. I also represent an organization of seniors in the greater New Haven area, Home Haven. There are about 40 of us who are in Woodbridge. At least 6 of them have walkers or wheelchairs. I would like to say though that the senior center has been so supportive, so encouraging, and so wonderful programs that we feel very much empowered to be in Woodbridge and be seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Ellen LaRocca, good evening. As Director of Human Services, Municipal Agent for the Elderly and Disabled, and American Disabilities Coordinator for the town, often I have to be the advocate for those who are elderly, frail, and disabled. It is in these roles that I ask you to support the restroom and ramp projects as proposed so that members of our growing senior center and residents utilizing the emergency shelter services when needed are given ADA accessibility and having a restroom on the lower level and egress with a ramp to keep our participants safe. We look forward to working with the town collaboratively to successfully accomplish these projects. And in advance, we thank you very much for your support on these much needed projects.
Thank you. Next. Okay, that's it? Okay. Oh.
You can sign my name so I don't take up too much time. Michelle Ditzy in 10 Timber Lane. You know me as one of the dog ladies, but I moved to speak in favor of any expenditure necessary for restrooms that are accessible in the center. I've said this once before, there are people with real problems, and that's a real problem. and that's what we need to focus on. We're all going in that direction, and the slower we go, the better, but putting in a bathroom beats the alternative. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I do speak for the Fitzgerald Four.
She signed my name. All I want to say really is thank you. Thank you for your kindness, for your respect, for your patience, for your tolerance, for your very hard work on behalf of the dog park people. We are really thankful that you have heard our voices, and the ones who couldn't be here are going to be thrilled to hear about your decision tonight. So from the bottom of all of our hearts, we just want to thank you. That's all.
Anyone else? Okay. Moving on. Thank you. Country Club, item 5, Country Club proposal, Insight Design Group. I have some remarks about this. Brian St. Pierre of Insight Development came to me with a proposal which was one of 3 concepts the Board of Selectmen had previously discussed in our executive sessions back on May 9th. The 2 other firms with proposals at that time, I'm going to give the names, I just want to make it all out there. Soundview Investments, which is what we refer to as option A, which was the elderly facility. It was a nursing home. Assisted living facility, thank you. And Carabetta Development, what we call option C. Neither of those have come back with further details at this point. Brian is here tonight, and I would like to invite him to make a presentation on behalf of Insight Development. This was option B back in May, and I'd like to turn it over to Brian. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I guess we'll wait for Justin to get everything up on the.
Do you want the lights down a little bit?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see from here. So.
Okay. I'm gonna go up there. So I have a neck thing.
That was-
I'm sorry, you want me to move?
I might mention you're a Woodbridge resident, correct?
Oh, I was going to.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everybody. First, I want to thank you all for taking the time tonight to hear out our ideas and proposals on what we should do with the club at Woodbridge. For all those on the board that don't know me, my name is Brian St. Pierre, and I'm the owner of Insight Development Group. We're based here in Woodbridge, and I also live here with my wife and 3 kids, and we love it here. This is our town. We've adopted it. We both come from 2 small towns, Middlebury and Huntington, and we plan on staying for a while. So, with me today is Justin Burke. He is part of the development team. Pat Roland, who was also supposed to be scheduled to be here with us, he got caught in the city today, so I apologize for that. But basically, Justin will be here to help me with the presentation, and Justin is part of the development team that's going to help us throughout the whole project. He'll be helping with not only the financial side of it, but also with the construction management, as kind of my right-hand man. So, as you know, we're here to discuss the property at Woodbridge. This is, just as a refresher, the old country club, clubhouse and pool. It's roughly about 150 acres in size, and the site was purchased back in 2009 by the town from the club. As I mentioned, it's about 150 acres, and the only thing it's being used for at this time is the pool and the snack shack. Everything else has been shut down due to numerous reasons. But we've been working with Beth and Tony for about a year, and we've come up with a proposal that we believe satisfies not only the town but also the people of Woodbridge. We think it's a good give and take, and we're happy to present it to you guys tonight. Getting into the proposal, we're proposing the purchase of the entire site of 155 acres from the town of Woodbridge. Basically, it will be a revitalization of the 18-hole golf course, where we plan on keeping the golf course and revitalizing that. that. Also, we'll be renovating the existing golf clubhouse completely into a state-of-the-art facility, along with renovations to not only the pool but the snack shack and the area for surrounding the pool. In that, we're also proposing a small area of the property, roughly 40 to 50 acres, to be developed into 155 and older single-family homes. It will be an adult active community, and that will include a clubhouse, tennis courts, and also meeting space for the residents of that community. The purchase will be for $5.1 million paid to the town of Woodbridge for the closing of the sale. We're going to invest roughly $1.5 million back into the golf course and golf course area surrounding the pool. The clubhouse is its own budgetary, I guess, item. This is strictly just for getting the fairways and greens and so on and so forth, getting the golf course back up and running. With that, we're gonna have we'll be renovating the golf clubhouse, which will include not only a banquet room, but a restaurant, obviously a pro shop and locker rooms for the golfers, and also some meeting rooms that can be used for the public in terms of small 5 to 10 people business meetings. This is how the site roughly lays out. As you know, this is the golf course. It's kind of on an island here with surrounded by road. The main entrance, if you see, is down by the bottom right-hand corner where it says renovated golf clubhouse and pool. That's currently the main entrance to the golf course. That will remain the golf course, clubhouse, pool, as we mentioned, and there will be a separate entrance for the 55 and older community further on down the road as you travel on your left. There is also an entrance off of Ansonia Road, so it's a two-way traffic. So not only the reason for this is we didn't want to bottleneck the Woodfield Road as a smaller private road with all the residents. So this will also filter out onto the Ansonia Road. There are many benefits to this proposal, as we've gone over, myself and Tony and Beth, but some are very obvious and some are worth mentioning at this point. One, there's still a roughly $4.9 million debt that the town owes on the property to date. So this will relieve the town of all debt, for the property. It also relieves them of environmental issues that have been ongoing since the purchase of the property at no cost to the town. As a purchase of the property, we will assume those environmental concerns if they need to be addressed. And how they need to be addressed. As I mentioned, it's a $5.1 million cash paid to the town at the time of closing. In addition, it will raise approximately $1.5 million per year in tax revenue upon stabilization. So in other words, upon completion of all 100 houses, it's roughly $1.5 million in taxes per year, and it would also include the building permits and fees that we're estimating at approximately $1 million, give or take, for the whole community. So there's definite benefit there for a tax standpoint and for fee standpoint. The 55 and older community will obviously satisfy the need here in Woodbridge. Justin, can you go to the next slide just for 1 second? There, as of 2016, the CERC that we have, 54% of the town is over the age of 45. That's a significant amount, and as you can tell, that's 2 or 3 years old now. So I'm sure that number has grown even more. So the 55 and older community will obviously, as I mentioned, take care of that, the aging population, and also it will have no impact on the school system. I know that's a major concern here in town. With the 55 and older, not only will we have private roads and sidewalks to be maintained by the DOT, but there's absolutely no impact on, or chance for impact on the school system. Some of the other benefits are there'll be an 18-hole championship golf course, swimming pool, clubhouse, and as I mentioned, meeting rooms, restaurants, so to speak, in the clubhouse. That will be at no cost to the town, and obviously fully accessed or accessible to the townspeople. And one of the major ones is, upon stabilization of the project, we plan to either donate back or hold the golf course land of approximately 100 acres in conservation. The reason for needing to hold on to it is a financial situation, which I guess we can go over with Tony, but it will be donated back to the town to be held in conservation so that nothing can happen with that 100 acres. And then lastly, there's the relocation of the cell tower, which is currently just behind the existing tennis courts, just above the tennis courts there at no cost to the town. We'll be moving it closer to the highway. It'll be across the street, closer to the highway. So just getting into the nitty-gritty of the community and golf course. As I mentioned, there'll be age-restricted single-family homes. Our main goal here is, one, not only to make houses comfortable for the 55 and older, but also to make it consistent with the style and the character of the neighborhood. I'm an architect by trade, and I live in Woodbridge, and I don't want to see something that doesn't belong. So this is, more than anything to me, this is the most important part. Keeping the character of the town, while still, getting the need out for the 55 and older. All these homes will be, for the most part, first floor masters with high energy efficiency and as much maintenance-free components that we can put on it without making it look like a spec development. For the development, they will have, as I mentioned, their own community center or clubhouse. These are examples of a clubhouse, that similar style and technique to what we would do. The clubhouse will feature a fitness room that has age-appropriate equipment in it for the 55 and older, tennis and pickleball courts, walking paths, and a meeting space inside the clubhouse for the community to meet at. As far as the golf course goes, as I mentioned, we're planning to make it into a championship golf course again. I come from a golf background, and also I have a rich history with this golf course. A very good family friend was the head pro at the golf course for, I want to say, 25 or 30 years. And also my brother was the assistant pro at this golf course for about 6 years. So it's a very important piece of land for me, and we want to bring it back to the championship golf course that it was. When it was private, it was excellent golf course. So we had planned to, like I said, input about $1.5 million into the golf course, into driving ranges, practice areas, and obviously revitalizing the golf course as it is. One of the main things with the golf course is we want to, one, it's going to be a public golf course. We would love to open it up to obviously golf camps and golf programs, possibly run them through the town if we can, and just make it a place that everybody in Woodbridge would love to go to, not only the kids, but the adults. As for the existing clubhouse and pool, we will, as you, I believe everybody knows, the golf course clubhouse is, I think, condemned at this point, where basically you can't walk in. Yeah, it's closed. It's
not
closed.
condemned. It's closed
Okay.
right now.
But we're going to be completely gutting that clubhouse and renovating into a state-of-the-art clubhouse, as we spoke about. The pool area will also get a revitalization in terms of, I think there was new coping that's needed for the pool, new pool equipment, furniture, out there, and the snack shack will get its own revitalization too. There'll be a full-service restaurant in the clubhouse, clubhouse bar, I guess we can call it. It won't be your typical clubhouse bar. It'll be more of a restaurant, more of a destination for Woodbridge residents to go to. And then obviously we'll have the banquet room, pro shops, locker rooms, and meeting places. So just to give you a little bit about ourselves, as I mentioned, we're Insight Development Group, and sorry, I just lost my train of thought. We're Insight, and we are a full-service real estate development firm. Basically, we start the project all the way from design to development, construction, and financing. We've worked on or been partners in over $700 million in developments throughout the country. Most of it is in the commercial aspect and custom residential. Our partners with this project is going to be Clubhouse Capital. They are our financial partners with this. They are 37 years, I think, in business at this point, and their resume speaks for itself. It's as you can tell by their name, Clubhouse Capital. They specialize in golf course and golf course communities, and have done over 25 golf courses, and I would say 6 or 7 actual communities that are golf course related. And as I mentioned, I'm Brian. You're going to see my face a lot. I'm going to be around. We're a small boutique development firm, and what you see is what you get. I'm going to be the guy in the trailer on site when you show up over there, and we're just really excited to hear your opinions on the project, and also kind of get moving down the road. So at that point, I'll just open it up to you guys as far as any questions that you might have. Hoping I can answer them all. I might not have all of them, but
I would invite any of the board members to ask questions of Brian.
One additional question,
Yeah.
Brian, can you send that to us electronically?
I think I have, and I've also
Yeah, we have copies.
and I've made copies for
And
about half a
anyone
dozen.
who wants a copy, we can email it out, and we're gonna put it up on the
Just
website
soon
as well,
have
as
it.
soon as
Try
possible.
and get it by email.
Brian,
Yeah.
where are you with Clubhouse Capital as your financing partner?
They're our financing partner for the project. They've committed to us fully in terms of this project. We've gone over all the specifics, pro formas, everything you could possibly go through, in the preliminary stage in terms of financing for this project.
One of the concerns that I noticed in terms of your numbers that you put up there is when we opted to move away from this being a golf course, one of the reasons was because of the amount of repair that was required to the golf course and the dollars associated with it, which seemed to exceed, which at the time I believe exceeded what you've calculated for the renovation.
Okay.
I mention it more as it's worth taking a look at that to make sure you've calculated and you understand exactly what's involved there, because
Definitely.
it's something that came up in the past and we know is a concern.
Sure, absolutely, and those numbers came from, actually from Clubhouse Capital themselves, who, like I said, have renovated over 25 golf courses. So they haven't actually been down to the site lately. We were there, I want to say in February or so. So they did review it at that time. Obviously, absolutely, we'll review those numbers again and make sure that everything's.
What do you see as a typical timeline for a project of this scope?
Yeah, we see it. I kind of look at it in two phases. One is obviously the golf course, that we can do in conjunction with the housing, the houses themselves. The golf course, we need a full 1 year cycle in order to get the golf course back to playable shape. So that, in the meantime, we'll be renovating the clubhouse and the pool area. And as far as the housing goes, we have a 3 or 4 year plan? Yeah, between a 3 and 4 year plan for the completion of all 100 houses. Now, obviously, we'll need the first 6 to 8 months. Will be clearing and getting in all the infrastructure and going from there before we can even put up a house. But it's about a 3 to 4 year project for the housing side.
A couple of questions. What is the price point for these homes?
I forgot to mention. So the answer is mid to high fours is a starting point, and obviously they'll be able to be customizable and so on and so, add-ons and
And how
things
big
like
will
that.
they be?
They're roughly between 2,000 and 2,400 square feet.
And they're two floors, so.
For the most part, they're one floor.
One floor. Okay.
Obviously, one of the upgrades will be a second floor in case you want either a loft or an extra bedroom for the grandkids when they come over, that sort of thing. But the main living space will be on the first floor.
And you'll be utilizing part of the existing golf course for houses. You'll be taking the first hole.
The first hole will be relocated throughout the golf course. In particular, where the driving range is now, the driving range will be moved to another part of the property. But yes, it does incorporate the first hole of the golf course.
You may have answered this, I apologize if you did, but who would manage the golf course?
It would be a management company once the golf course was complete. So we would take care of renovating it, getting it to the point where we can bring in management. We do not have a management company yet. No.
Brian, do you know how much a total project is going to cost you and your financial?
Sure. And we're planning. So it's a tricky question. The total cost that we're coming up with is between 25 and 30 million for the whole project. Now, with that said, all of that money won't be needed, I guess is the point, because it's kind of a rainfall effect where once you get the first 10 houses built, and hopefully sell them, you take that money and you reinvest it back into the project. So, but we've gone to Clubhouse Capital with the 25 to $30 million number, and we all feel comfortable with that.
As an open, and this is more, I guess, kind of an open question I have. In terms of the purchase, if it's purchased at the $5.1 million as suggested, what, I know in the past there's been concerns there should be in terms of losing that property, which is the reason the town bought it to begin with, and not the town not owning it. What are the implications as far as that's concerned? Do you have any sense for that?
In terms of what? Other than, as I mentioned in the presentation, we will be donating the golf course land of approximately 100 acres back to the town of Woodbridge. So you will actually be in possession of that 100 acres.
I'm just not sure how that works. So
yeah, I mean we'll have to talk to Jerry about it in terms of legally. It's a financial thing. Obviously, it's hard to get money to renovate a golf course if you don't own it.
First conversation we had with Brian is that he would just buy what is essential for his project.
Right.
So, and the town would retain the rest. Brian came back and said that for various reasons, which I'm not an expert on, it would be better if they bought everything and then donated it back to the town. We'd have to figure that out, whether that's feasible and possible. But that's just out there.
And Mika, we have no intention of ever developing the 100 acres. As I mentioned, I don't want to see it.
No, you don't go as either.
I'm from here. I don't want to see it either. So.
You mentioned the conservation easement on that 100 acres you'd be amenable to.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, and that could be, the conservation easement could be left on with the purchase of the land. I guess that would protect it during the time that I guess we technically own it. And then obviously it would be donated back to you at, you know, when we could. But there would, we could retain the easement, the conservation easement on that 100 acres at the time of purchase.
So you don't require the conservation easement, that's more for the town's benefit.
That's more for the town, just to verify that we're never going to touch that 100
Right.
acres. I mean, you know, give or take that 100 acres.
I have a question, if you could go to, I think it was number 5.
Okay.
If you could just, it's the map of where you're putting the,
Sure.
where it's suggested. Could tell me it's hard to see the roads.
Yeah, so where it says renovated golf clubhouse and pool,
Yeah,
that's Woodfield. So that Woodfield goes just to the right of it.
thank you, Mika. Okay. So a
Would it
good
be easier
portion
if
of
I
the
got-
Ansonia,
Yep, so Ansonia is all the way at the top of the page.
yeah, and Johnson's down to the left,
And Johnson's down to the left and kind of swoops around,
Got it.
and Woodfield goes up
and Woodfield is
on the right. Correct.
Okay, so.
It's exactly where the existing entrance is to the golf course, if you're familiar with that.
That would be where the over 55 houses are.
It's actually in the woods, past, you know, the entrance to the golf course. So what's currently forest and woods is where the housing would be.
Okay,
So
thank
you really wouldn't see this from the roads?
You would that's our goal, is not to see it. I mean, we want to retain at least, you know, a barrier along the road. Obviously, you might see it once you know, pass the community, the entrance to the community. But in terms of those houses that border Woodfield, I do not believe you'll see any of those as you're driving down the road.
So, Brian, back to that 30 million.
Yep.
Does that include the 5.1 million?
That does not.
Does not.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it does.
It does.
It does include the 5.1 million.
Okay, so then you're at 25
Mm-hmm.
minus 1.5, which I agree with Mika is way light, but I'll use that number.
Okay.
That's 23, and then 3.5 million at least to do what I saw to that clubhouse. So rough terms, 20 million left.
Yep. We have 2 million for the clubhouse, for the existing clubhouse. We have 2 million set for that.
Good luck to you. I don't mean that, I'm just, I can't see that.
Okay.
But anyway, let's use 20 million to build 100 houses.
Sure.
Right? So if you do that math and that, I just use 2,200 a square foot. You can build houses that look like that for $90 a square foot in Woodbridge?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You should be making a lot of money.
I'm trying. Absolutely.
I don't see how.
Yeah,
you
I'll be honest with you, Joe. Our number is $100 a square foot. In our pro forma that we've done is $100 a square foot.
I'm just raising the issue because that is not anything that I'm familiar with.
In your experience, is that much lower than what people are building these comparable
It's
things?
very good. Let's put it that way.
'Cause I was
It's not
thinking 200.
unobtainable. Yeah, it's not unobtainable.
150 to 2.
150 is probably the
150 to 2 for houses like that.
Right.
Yeah. My number would be 150 if somebody else was building it, I guess is the point.
All right, well, that's fair enough.
How many of these projects have you guys done?
We, Insight Development has not done an actual subdivision community. We specialize in single family houses, so, you know, all our developments are, you know, buy a piece of land, put up the house, you know, sell it, so to speak. Clubhouse Capital has done several, I would say upwards of 10 to 15 golf course communities, you know, with 100 houses, 200 houses, 80 houses. And like I said, they would be on the management advisory role, you know, throughout the project, because it's their money.
So who would get the letter of credit, like the financial stuff? Would it
That's
be
what
from
that's
you?
what that's Clubhouse
Clubhouse,
Credit. Yeah, Clubhouse Credit would or Capital would provide all that information.
And how,
Once we have basically an approved project, we can go out and get letters of commitment from everybody.
how engaged are they in the process once, or are they strictly the investors?
Nope, they are advisory roles also. I mean, just one little tidbit. they made a recommendation to us a couple months ago that, you know, there shouldn't be 4 different types of houses, there shouldn't be 6 different types of houses, there should be 5. And here's the reason why, because their market research has shown if you do less than 5 or more than 5, you know, it becomes complicated and you start losing money, so to speak. So they will be involved through an advisory role. They'll be down at the site in the trailer with me.
Would they be willing to come down and meet with the board of selectmen?
Absolutely. They were gonna come tonight, but I said let's get through this first one and then we can bring them in.
Joe, any questions? Okay, you got all set for tonight? Okay.
Thank you. It's a great proposal. It's in terms of addressing a lot of the things people have mentioned, so certainly appreciate you bringing it forward to us.
My pleasure.
Joe, David, any other questions?
No, I'm all good for
Okay,
now.
all right. So what we're gonna do is, we'll get this up on the website, the thing, and if anyone would like a copy emailed to, Joe wants a
Yes,
copy emailed to
please.
him. Somebody could take care of that tomorrow morning. That'd be great,
I just
and,
have one question.
Sure, go ahead.
You been out and walked that property?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
you saw the clubhouse too? And-
I have not been in the clubhouse lately.
Okay.
I think I was in the clubhouse during the last administration because the talks had started with the previous first selectman.
Oh,
So I'd been in
okay.
that clubhouse. I
Okay.
guess it's got to be a year and a half, almost 2 years ago.
Okay. All right, so that's
We can
good.
take a question from the public.
No, not tonight. We're gonna continue. Thank you, though. So, thank you, Brian, for the beginnings, and,
Thank you, Jesse.
No, that's good.
oh, okay, sorry. I just want to share one additional point of information, full disclosure. Last week, Robert Sachs of Fieldstone Village approached us, and we may be receiving a proposal from him maybe next month. So I just want to let you guys know that that may be forthcoming. That's the gentleman in orange, right, okay. Okay, so is there anything else anyone wants to do tonight about this? Just kind of take it in and we'll
Well, I
wait.
think we should follow up Jerry and get capital, what is it? Clubhouse
Clubhouse
capital.
capital.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brian,
Here
Brian
again.
and I talked yesterday, and I said, and Tony, I think, called him
Yep.
again today to try to get some of that data, because it's important.
Yeah, come
Absolutely.
here.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned, you know, a lot of it is hard, you know, to get letters of commitment only because, you know, there's no approval, I guess is the point. There's no sale of the land, there's no, you know, in other words, in terms of banks go, obviously, I'm sure you guys are familiar with construction loans. I mean, you need plans and elevations and, you know, site plans all done, so.
This will go to a referendum. This is
Correct.
up to the voters of the town of Woodbridge.
Sure,
So just
absolutely.
I think we talked about that way back when.
Way back.
It's important, they have said, they will vote on this.
So will you do, assuming the board approves this, and assuming they go to the next step, will you do those site plans for the referendum? And
Yes,
the more
absolutely,
detailed drawing?
100%. The whole development will be planned before, you know, any referendum, any vote is done.
Okay.
That costs a lot of money.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Anything
but I
else on
just
that?
want to be, I don't know, I'm sure Brian knows, but if that all happened, he doesn't have the funding.
Right.
So you're putting out all that money and the referendum would have to be subject to funding, so.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Just so-
Absolutely. Oh, no, I'm fully aware. We're already into it for a lot, Joe.
I'm sure.